Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to J Wall Sports. We are back here with another episode.
Another one. Hey, Pistol,
This,
our receiver, hit my line. Hit my line.
what is up with you in this? When you bench your seasoned veteran quarterback this late in the season, it's sending a message to the team.
Then goes out. And now they want to play with some heart. They want to play with some effort.
I see why Doc got fired. If you're not going to make the adjustments of the coach, you need to go up and get up out of here.
Wentz has regressed. And it's a mental.
Disclaimer. He might have some outrageous, Max Kellerman type, things to say today. I don't know what he's gonna say, but the way he's starting off his video is giving me them vibes. What's up, J Wall Sports fans? Welcome back to another episode.
Yes, sir.
Episode number 17 to be exact. Most episodes we've done in this season. Congratulations to us. Go ahead, pat yourself on the back. Hi, Sean. Go ahead, pat yourself on the back.
On it.
Yes, sir. As always, it's Lamarck Wiley Jr. here with you. Got my co-host, Sean. Man, how you doing?
I'm good, man. NBA playoffs getting kind of good. I'm getting on the road with these predictions. So, what future say? Life is good.
Hey, yeah. Currently, right now, me and Ashan, we are tied at 25-14 for our NBA playoff predictions. We're picking above 50% right now. So, hey, man, congratulations. You keeping up with you. You keeping up with me. You keeping up with me.
With you.
Yeah, you keeping up with me, man. You keeping up with me. I took a little lead over the weekend, but you brought your way back. But it's all good.
Man, you be trying me like I don't know the game, like you know the game, dog. That's all I'm gonna say.
I don't think you know the game like I know the game, but you know the game. You know the game.
I hear you. That's all
right. So moving on, the Bucks dropped back-to-back games, and in game 2 they were held to 86 points. The Nets, they didn't have James Harden. He left game 1 with 43 seconds in with the right hamstring. He got MRI done on it. There was nothing extenuous about it that he would need. He just needs some more time off to heal it up. But the Nets are up 2-0. So how surprising is it that the Nets are up 2-0?
It's not surprising that they're up 2-0, but it's the fashion of which they are up 2-0. Like you said, game 2 they held the Bucks to 86 points. Blowing them out 2 games in a row. I was not expecting that. We both said it before the series started that I think it's gonna go to 7. It's gonna be a real close back and forth kind of battle, and it's definitely one-sided right now, and it's not looking good for the Bucks. And it's really gonna be hard to beat this Brooklyn team 4 times, and they are down 2-0, and their stars just look flat right now for Milwaukee. Of course, Giannis, he played well game 1, but Chris Middleton is 13 of 43 shooting from the field. That's 30%, and 3 of 13 from the 3-point line, which is 23%. So if the people that are supposed to be scoring aren't scoring, and shoot, it just don't look good. And I think the Nets would be all right without James Harden this series, since he's been out for so long before the playoffs even started. So they're not really missing anything. It's just some icing on the cake kind of ordeal. But it's looking kind of bad down there. Fear the Nets. That's what they should fear, because the Nets are not fearing the deer. I'm just calling that how I see it, though.
For like a second, that went like right over my head. I was like, wait, fear the Nets? I was like, oh, wow. So for those of you that don't know, on social media, the Bucks have, hashtag fear the deer for, so like anything that's like Bucks related, instead of putting hashtag Bucks, you can put a hashtag Fear the Deer because that's like their hashtag for the season. So wow. Shots fired.
Hey.
All right. So I'm very surprised that the Nets are up 2-0 in the way that they are up 2-0. Game 1, the Bucks shot 20% from the three, shooting 6 of 30. Game 2, the Bucks they did a little better. They shot 29% from the three, 8 for 27. But I did not think they would shoot this poorly in 2 games in the series, let alone this poorly 2 games back to back. The Bucks were a really good shooting team, and in game 2, besides the shooting, the Bucks did not play a bad game. Brook Lopez, he had 10 points and 6 rebounds, which is something that they need to emphasize and control the boards. And we even the last time we had Ruff on, he said that Lopez plays the softest brand of basketball, the softest brand of 7-foot basketball he has ever seen. And he won't lie in, but those 6 rebounds, it helps, because he's doing things that he really doesn't usually do. Drew Holiday had 13 points. That's not a real high for him, but he was putting up points. He was doing other things. He played pretty good defense. Kyrie only had 22 points. Like I said in this series, if you got to hold somebody, it's Kyrie that I would try to hold in those low 20s. So Drew Holiday did on that, and Chris Middleton, he had 17 points, and Giannis had 18 points. I mean, if you look at the Bucks numbers, you'll be like, oh yeah, the Bucks, that was a close game, or they lost by like 4 or 5. But for them to lose by the amount that they lost by, it's really surprising. So
it was at almost 50, or right at 51 points.
Yes.
Not the regular season, but the playoffs. Shout out to my man AI. But moving on to another kind of soft. After the Mavs dropped game 7 against the Clippers, Kristaps, hey, chill, bro. You messed me up. All right. After losing game 7 against the Clippers, Kristaps Porzingus was asked how he felt about his fit with the organization moving forward. And he had this to say.
Tim McMahon, ESPN. KP, how do you feel about your fit with this franchise moving forward?
Good question, Tim. How do I feel? I mean, I'm good. I try to put in the work, try to work hard, do my part, listen to the coaches, what I'm asked for to do, and that's it. I try to keep it simple for myself, so I'm not overthinking things, and I try to focus on what I can control, and that's being a better basketball player, going into the off season hungry, wanting to get better physically on the basketball court, and I'm going to put that work in to get better, and then the rest of the stuff will resolve itself. So I try to focus on what I can control.
After hearing these words, what should the Dallas Mavericks do with Kristaps Porzingus?
Nothing. They shouldn't do nothing with him right now. They need to keep him, because now when I say this, I don't mean the whole total 9 package, but these two, speaking Luka and Kristaps Porzingis, they had the potential to be AD and LeBron, but they are not putting Porzingis in the right situations. And this is what I mean by that. And I understand, Kristaps Porzingis, he hasn't played more than 72 games in his career. He averages 20 points and 9 rebounds in the regular season. The last year in his 3 playoff games, he averaged 23 points and 8 rebounds before he got hurt. Rick Carlisle needs to find a way to make him more effective. So when you look at the Lakers, how the Lakers play, especially when AD and LeBron are really going, they defer to, AD. I'm not saying they need to defer to Porzingis, but the way they defer to AD is they put him in mismatch situations. So we know, for example, that Jokic cannot guard AD on the perimeter. So they're gonna if LeBron has the ball at the top of the key, they're gonna run a couple, pick and roll actions to get Jokic, behind AD as he comes out to that perimeter. Then he catches it and he can hit him with a few moves to get around him and score to the basket. That's what they need to do. They need to make the bigs on the defensive end work. They're not making the bigs on the defensive end work if Kristaps Porzingus is just sitting out there as like a 3-and-D kind of person, when we know he has the potential to be much more. They need to get him in pick and roll situations. A 2-man game with him and Luka, I feel, would be very suffice, but he has to roll sometimes and stop fading to the 3 all the time. They have to let him have a low post presence. You're 7'3". There's no way that you should be taking a majority of shots from 10 feet and out. Majority of your shots need to be from 10 feet in, and so you can show that presence, that low post presence. And then once you start scoring some, then you can stretch the floor out with some threes. And I think that's all that this team is missing is a comparable to help stretch the floor for Luka to attack the basket, for Tim Hardaway to get those open threes. He's going to have to be, a little more dominant to the point where he's drawing double teams. And so now teams don't know what to do, because now you got Tim Hardaway open, Dorian Finney-Smith open, Luka open for threes when the ball is not in Luka's hand. They also need, to get a comparable. I don't think they need to get a comparable backup too. They need to put Jalen Brunson more in that backup point guard role, because he can facilitate, he can score like they showed us. But with Kristaps Porzingus, they don't need to do nothing with him. They need to find ways to make him effective, because it's up to the coaching staff to make a player effective, and it's on the coaching staff when a player is scoring 8 points in a game 7, because all year you haven't been putting him in situations where he is set up to score. You just been letting Luka make those plays. Take some of the power out of Luka's hands. We know he's great and he can create when y'all need him to create, but for the most part y'all need to have that balance between them getting their touches.
I have to agree. I just think he needs to be a little bit more aggressive. And that's basically what you said in another sense. So getting the ball in the low post and getting it in the buckets. Like you said, he averaged 29 on the regular season. But in the postseason, you averaged 13 points and your rebounds were down to, I think, like 5 or 6 a game. That cannot happen if you want to be considered or actually fit in and be a co-star. So I think you just need to be a little bit more aggressive in demanding the ball, and that comes from, like you said, the coaching changes and making sure he does get his touches. But that 3-point line is a killer for him, because he will pull up in a heartbeat.
He will, and I don't blame him, because when he was in New York, he was hitting them, but he took. I don't want to say he took more shots, but he had more of a rhythm because he was the focal point of that offense. You can a lot. Not everybody is set up to be a 3-and-D kind of person. Some people they need that consistent touches. Like Kuz cannot be a 3-and-D kind of person. He needs some consistent touches. To get the 3 ball going for him. To give him that confidence. And that's what happens with young players. They're so used to growing up being so dominant. Until they get to the NBA, they're used to getting touches. They're used to, being able to make mistakes and grow through those. You gotta sort of let them do the same thing in the NBA, but to a smaller degree. Don't get on them when they mess up. Let them learn. And this is year 5 for Porzingis. He has so much more potential. If he can stay healthy. 1. And 2, if they can find ways to get him integrated into the offense more.
I agree.
All right, so moving on, man. Game 1 between the Suns and the The Nuggets. Yeah. So Chris Paul, he led the Suns past the Nuggets in game 1, my apologies, with a score of 122-105. Paul finished the game with 21 points, 11 assists, and 6 rebounds, while Nikola Jokic had just 22 points and 3 assists. How impressive was this game for the Suns?
It was a really good win, but at the same time, you have to look at it. This Suns team was a half game back of having the best record in the regular season. So is this, like Chris Paul said last night after the game, they just finally get the recognition they deserve. D-Book is a monster. Chris Paul, he actually looked really healthy last night. 21 points, his first double, 21 points, 11 assists. But they look really good. They look really sharp, and they had the role players really stepped up. Mikal Bridges had 23 points, 5 assists, and 5 rebounds. Crowder's gonna play great defense as always, and he was hitting his open shots. DeAndre Ayton had a double-double with 20 and 10, and all 5 starters for the Suns had double digits. And then the bench production with Cameron Artis-Payne, he had
You mean
minutes.
double-digit scoring? They had double-digit scoring?
Yes,
okay.
5, yeah.
Just wanted to clarify. Go ahead.
My apologies. Torian Craig, who used to play for the Nuggets for the past 3 seasons, he came in and really gave them a good production and energy boost off the bench. So, yeah, and if they can play like this and not have Booker put up 47 for them to win, I mean, I'll take it. And hold Joker to 22 points and on 3 assists, and he basically just averaged about 40 on Portland and a double-double. It was really impressive. And one thing that just Chris Paul, man, that dude's special.
Hey, man. Chris Paul is my favorite point guard for a reason. He's, growing up, he's what I modeled my game after for a reason. And this is for that very reason of how he performed last night is why I am very impressed with this win. Because I thought all along, after the Lakers series, I thought ever since then, I was like, for the Suns to be effective, CP3 is going to have to be CP3. And him scoring and assisting like he was, the most points he scored in the playoffs this year, I think that's a good sign for them. Devin Booker was ultra efficient. He was 8 for 12 for 21 points. That's ultra efficient, like 21 points on 12 shots.
8 assists too, which is really quietly his passing has really improved. So even if he's not making his shots, defender's gonna have to come, and that opens up the floor for Mikal Bridges and Jay Crowder to hit them shots. So
exactly. And their game plan for the Nuggets was it was flawless. Like I loved it. It's been what I was saying all year, especially when Jamal Murray went down and the Blazers were playing them. I said that the Nuggets, I mean not the Nuggets, but teams need to let Jokic just go off and stop everyone else. The Trailblazers, they were focused on getting the ball out of Jokic's hands, so he was seeing double teams and stunts and other things, to get the ball out of his hands. And Jokic is too good of a passer for you to do that because he's going to hit the open man. And after 4 or 5 shots, somebody is going to hit. That person is going to start to catch a rhythm, and then that's when teams start having a problem with the Nuggets because now when you're stunting, he's using that stunt against you. So he can go ahead and score and get to the basket. Now you're looking at Jokic having 32, 10, and 7 rebounds, instead of what he was at tonight, which was 22 points and 3 assists. I think that's very big. The Suns letting DeAndre Ayton go one-on-one with them and forcing the Nuggets guards to score in one-on-one is really going to be key for this series. And with Jamal Murray, I don't think this game plan would be able to, be this effective.
Yeah, that's because they played 3 times in the regular season and the Nuggets did win 2 out of 3 of those games. But having Jamal Murray, and even then, no games were decided by 5 or less. So, and another thing, DeAndre Ayton's presence on Nikola Jokic down low is really forcing him to work, and that's what you need to do in order to beat this Nuggets team, force him to work, tiring him out throughout the game. So that way, if his inside game's not going, it's going to be harder for him to get that outside shooting going and to facilitate the offense for the team. So it was really good game plan by the Suns. But moving on to tonight's games. The first game is the Hawks and the 76ers. They match up again for game 2. The 76ers are looking for a little revenge after losing game 1 to the Hawks. But they figured things out in the second half, causing the Hawks to have 15 turnovers in game 1. Will the Hawks hold off the 76ers for game 2?
Man. I don't know, man. This is very tough because, 4 out of the 5 starters for the Sixers, they had 17 or more points. Danny Green was the only person, with less than 17. And he had 4 points. Although they found, something with that double team in the second half on Trae Young, I don't know if that's gonna be effective in game 2 because the Hawks know it's coming. They, able to, take a few days to adjust to it, how they're gonna play it, go over those things and walkthroughs and practices. But, the thing that worries me is the Hawks' inability to, adjust on the fly. They were up big time in game 1 in the second half, and that double team really confused them and gave them a lot of troubles. In the playoffs, it's all about adjustments. Look at the Mavs and Clippers. Ty Lue made adjustments on the fly. He went from starting Pat Beverly to letting him sit on the bench. Zubac went from starting to sitting on the bench. You gotta make adjustments. Adjustments are key. You gotta make in-game adjustments, post-game adjustments, last minute pre-game adjustments, but you gotta make some adjustments. And how the Hawks weren't able to make adjustments on the fly, sort of scares me with this, being such a young team and a team that's not really, used to being in the playoffs. Now the Sixers, they have Ben Simmons, they have Joel Embiid, they have Tobias Harris, they have Danny Green, people with deep playoffs, Danny Green, multiple championships, veteran presence, team, they know how to adjust on the fly. And so my thing is, when the Hawks see that double team, you gotta get where Trae Young can see you, which is most likely is right in between, where the two defense players' feet pretty much connect that. That's where Trae Young is going to be able to see you and he's going to be able to get you the ball at. They got to be able to, to get to them. Another thing that, is killing me is the Hawks. They have too many shooters. If they can figure out how to get out of that double team, they're going to light the Sixers up from the 3 because you got Bogdanovich, you got Gallinari, you got Kevin Huerter. Like, all these players can shoot. John Collins, he's expanding his range now. So he's, being a pretty, steady, consistent 3-point shooter. So if the Hawks can get out of it, then I see the Hawks taking this one. And I am taking the Hawks in this game. And, because they don't have an answer for Trae Young. If they can get out of that double team, which I think they will because they can prepare for it. And their bench players, they have multiple bench players that can create their own shot. And just to name one off the bat who's been a real sleeper this entire playoff run is Lou Williams. So if they really need
I was
Lou
waiting for you to say that
off,
name.
yeah, if they really need Lou to go off, he can go off.
Yeah, man, and even then, if the double team comes, he could bring in another ball handler instead of having Kevin Huerter back there in the backcourt and have Lou Will and Trae Young back there facilitating. And that experience back there that can really help Trae, given that Lou Will has that playoff experience as well. But I do have the Hawks taking this game as well. My thing is the bench production.
Yeah.
2 players on the Hawks bench outscored the 76ers bench. 76ers bench only had 23 points in game 2. I believe the Hawks had like 35, going on 40. So I think, like you said, if Lou Will can create a shot, Kevin Huerter 15 points off the bench. You still have Gallinari and all them, and DeAndre Hunter didn't even play game one, so he may come off the bench and get a couple minutes to get his rhythm back coming off that knee injury. And you got Solomon Hill that may come off the bench depending on how they want to play Hunter's minutes. And like it's too many shooters, and even then, Embiid killed them in the pick and roll. In game one, it's hard for him to move laterally and up and down the court. Small meniscus tear, and you can see if he lands on with too much pressure coming down, it can have an effect on him. I did see that a couple of times in game one. So I believe he'll tear down a little bit as the series goes along. But I just got the Hawks, man. Too many options.
Yeah, man. All right, so moving on to the final game of the night. The Clippers move on to take on the Jazz after going to 7 games with the Mavericks. Who would take game one in the Western Conference semifinals matchup and why?
I got Utah. They're coming off a lot of rest, and they might be out of rhythm tonight, but I believe they can get going. The Mavs showed that if they can get the big mans in the paint on the Clippers, it's easy money for them. I believe it was game 5 or 6 when they brought in Marjanovic, how you pronounce his name, and he went on a little tear in the game, scoring like 8 straight points down low. And the presence Rudy Gobert can have scoring and rebounding. So here he's protecting the rim. If he can get a couple of little easy shots, because they might go big with Zubac, but even then Rudy Gobert's been a challenge for anybody. And if Rudy gets going down low, getting easy shots, then that opens up the floor for Bogdan Bogdanovic, Mike Conley, Donovan Mitchell. Then you still have Jordan Clarkson coming off the bench that can give you 20 a night. I just got Utah with this one.
I see the point you're making, and I think the Clippers wanted to go small ball in that series because they realized the matchup problems they would have with small ball because Porzingus, being in that small ball lineup, who is he gonna guard? How is he gonna, like, especially if he got on Nick Batum, like he can't keep up with Nick Batum. He can't move laterally enough, stay in front of Nick Batum. So I think that's why they were gonna go small. But with this Utah team, I think they're gonna go big. So Zubac will probably come back in the starting lineup. I think Boogie Cousins will see a lot of playing time in this series because so this is a big team, and I think it will mix it up a little. But I do have the Clippers, winning game 1. And I'm going to attest this to rest to little to no rest. The Jazz they've been off for 6 days now since their last game. The Clippers, they just played their last game 2 days ago. Their legs are warm, fresh. They're going to come out in game 1 fresh and playing at a high level. The Jazz, I think they're gonna, be a little bit, slow coming in, not 100% focused. And I think the Clippers just gonna be, more ready than the Jazz. And I think, it's gonna take about half the first quarter, maybe the entire first quarter for the Jazz to really get in that groove, and then they're gonna have to play catch up. So I just think, and we see this a lot, when teams win in 4 and then they're waiting, and then the team goes to 7, 5, 6, and then that team that's fresher off the game, they come into a little bit faster. So I'm gonna go with the Clippers for game 1.
We'll see.
Yeah, we will. But that's all we got for you guys today. Appreciate you guys for tuning in to another episode of J Law Sports. Keep spamming the like button, keep hitting the comment button, keep hitting the notification bell. It's up there somewhere, somewhere up here. But yeah, that's all we got for you guys today, and we out.
We out.